So good morning, everyone in online. Good morning, Rao. So good morning, everyone. So today, I just wanted to explain that today we will see all the Spring Framework related annotations, and there is a doubt in a lot of people. I have to learn Spring Framework first, and then only I need to learn Spring Boot. So I'll get rid of that confusion today with with most of the annotations that I just wanted to use. Okay. So today, basically, we will start with Spring Framework. All the annotations we will cover. Okay, we'll cover all the annotations, and then probably today we will see how we can convert that application to a Spring Boot application. Of course, these are actually covered in the demo sessions, but I just wanted to start with this approach so that even going forward, we will just have a lot of scenarios and use cases. Okay, so next week from Monday, we are going to start with movie ticket booking system mini project with all the technologies like Kafka, Spring Boot, Spring Cloud, and all other things. Okay, but tomorrow, that means today is a Thursday, right? Yeah. So today and tomorrow, we'll just see all the annotations of Spring framework, and we will also see the differences between Spring Boot and Spring, and let's see what makes us or what makes the developers to choose Spring Boot as a first choice instead of choosing Spring Framework. But I'll get rid of that confusions today. Okay. So hope this session will be very much helpful, and I will just guide you through all the steps which you don't know before. Okay. Of course, some of the scenarios are already covered in the demo sessions, but I just wanted to start with the fresh, and then probably we will go with the tools, whatever we have. Okay. Okay. And please raise your hands. I don't want to talk with any person in middle. If you just have any questions, please raise your hands at the end of the session. Okay. Yeah. So today and tomorrow, I'll just cover the Spring Framework basic annotations which are required to be used in the Spring Boot technology. So probably get all those things, refreshed from your side today. And also I will be committing the code which I have developed today in the GitHub by end of the day. And also there is a Telegram channel created by Shrikant, okay, our admin from the admin team. So probably you can also post your questions if you have not understood any questions. Then probably post your questions in the Telegram channel so that we will be reachable at any time. Okay, yeah. So that's the total idea, and let me share my screen first of all. Sorry. Okay. So uh, I just wanted to develop a Spring web application, not with Spring Boot. And I just wanted to get rid of the confusion and on why we are going with Spring Boot and not with Spring Framework. But at the end, we are using Spring Framework in Spring Boot, but no one knows about it, first of all. So to get rid of that confusion, I just wanted to write a small use case for everyone. So as I have to install Tomcat server to run my Spring web application, I'm just using STS for the last day today. So going forward, I'll be using IntelliJ. And if anyone has any confusions at the end of the session, or maybe in the future sessions at the end of the session, they can ask me on how to create a project in IntelliJ. I will tell you all those kind of things. Don't worry about that. Okay. So this is basically I'll tell you what are all the disadvantages, and also I just wanted to explain some of the Marvin scopes. Anyone knows about Marvin scopes? Mostly no. I know that. Okay. Uh, so let's create a simple Marvin project. So here I just wanted to go next. And again, I'm saying, don't worry about this today and tomorrow. You'll get most of the things which you have to learn from Spring. Okay. So tomorrow I will explain about the Spring Bean life cycle, because that is a recently, so that is mostly being asked in recent interviews. So tomorrow we'll go through the Bean life cycle also. Okay. But for today, we'll just see what is the confusion most of the people are having with Spring Boot and Spring Web. And starting from Monday, we are just going to start with our mini project. Okay. Because we need to do three different projects. One is a mini project, which has, 5 to 6 microservices, followed by Angular application, where Swiggy application has to be developed. And for that Swiggy application, we need to create microservices for the Swiggy application as well. Okay. So Maven archetype, quick start. So you can choose this archetype. This is one of the, software provided by Maven in order to create a Java Maven project. So here I just wanted to start with com.user.registration.system. And also, I'll just give this as user registration API. And here you can just remove this one, it is not required. And anyone knows about snapshots and releases? So right now, whatever the dependencies that we have seen, every version is a release tag. It doesn't have snapshot. So snapshot means the project is still under development and it has been tested thoroughly. It has not been released yet completely. And if you just go and see the recent version of Spring Boot, here you have, 3.0.13 snapshot. That means this project is not released yet. It is just released for testing purposes. And if you just see the latest version of the Spring Boot, it is 3.1.5. But 3.2.0 is also getting released. And if you can see, first snapshot version has been released, and next the snapshot release version has been released. Okay. So these are the latest versions. This is how they will actually make this snapshot. Snapshot means this version is still not available. It will be available in future. So that means it is still under development. So if you just see 3.1.5, and if you just go and explore this button, let me close this and choose Maven. And here you can see that you have something called a version. Basically, this is a release version. Probably they have not made it as a release. Even we can also remove the snapshot, right? Yeah, but here they are actually making a snapshot if it is under development, and they are not going to make it as release. Even they can mention it as hyphen release also over here, but they will not, because that is a release version. And whatever the projects which are still under development for 3.2.0 version, snapshot, that means it is still under development. So that's the total idea. Okay. Yeah, snapshot is not like a backup, Murli. Snapshot is being released for the developers who just wanted to get a taste of what are the new features and how they can test it. This is just for testing purposes, which they have released over here. Okay, so that's the total idea, Murli. And probably I'll close this, and I'll just go to this. And here, I just wanted to make this as a snapshot, and I'll just finish it. So one more thing, The left side package explorer will not contain the project until unless you click on S over here. And don't wait till you have not pressed over here. Okay, so that's the total idea. So my throat is not good. Yesterday I have taken some. Okay. So I just wanted to develop a simple web application, Spring web application. First, what I need to do. If it is Spring Boot, we don't have to install a server. But if it is Spring Web, only Spring Framework web application, then probably we have to install the Tomcat server. And if you can see over here, there is a window option. There is something called a show view. And here, go to others and click on servers. So you'll find the servers option over here. Just click on it. And here, there is an option to download. Okay. Now, everyone knows about Tomcat server. So Tomcat server is a server where web applications will run. The web applications which can be run on a browser. Okay, so that's the total idea. And now, so what we can do, so if you just wanted to download Tomcat server, just download. The recent version is Apache Tomcat 10. Okay, so just go to this. There is something called a deployer. And you have to download this zip. Once this zip is downloaded, you will see something like I have it my. So here, if you can just see, I have this Tomcat with this version 10.1.8. And here you need to choose this path and copy this path and go over here. Right click on this, new server. Click on this Apache, choose the latest version. And click on the next. And here you have to provide the Tomcat installation directory. That means the home page. Okay, so here I just wanted to copy paste it. So you need to select the folder where the bin, conf, live, logs, temp, web apps, work, everything is there. Okay, select the folder, and then probably it will give you the option for next. So right now there is no application available. So even you have registration API, but there is something you need to do to make this user registration app visible over here in this available tab. Right now there is nothing. I'll tell you why it is not there. Okay, so finish it, and we'll just write some code first of all. And before that, Tomcat 8 plus versions will work only with Java 8. What is the version right now over here? Okay, so just go in the pom.xml and change the source and target version to 17. This is 1.7. Okay. Now we have done this. I will remove everything. I don't want to use this first of all. That's the total idea. Okay. So here, what I just wanted to do, I wanted to add some couple of dependencies over here. The first dependency is we need to use Spring core library. First of all, Spring Framework core library. So here, the first dependency or the group ID that I need to add is org dot. You don't have to worry about the notes. I will give you the notes. Okay. So through the GitHub for this application starting onwards. So every day, by end of the day, you will be getting the project committed to the GitHub along with the notes. Okay. Don't worry about that. So choose this group ID and then the artifact ID. So the artifact ID is something called string-context. Okay. So right now, I know these packages and artifact names, but if you don't know about that, you will not be able to add the dependency. There is something called, you can just type spring-context space Maven in Google. You'll get the Maven repository. This is the place where all the dependencies are getting downloaded. So if you just go to this and click on the latest version 6.0.13, and you'll see the dependency over. Okay. Now I just have to make this application as a web application. There is something called Spring-Web MVC. Okay, so I just wanted to add that one as well. Group ID. And here I just wanted to add auth.spring frameworks. And then probably followed by the artifact ID. And here I just wanted to add Spring-Web will be there. We need to add web MVC. Okay, so because this is from the Spring 6.x version, so we need to add this. Got it? Okay. Now the other way around, we need to add one more dependency, which is something like, previously we do have something like servlet API. So do you know servlet first of all, anyone? Okay, servlet is a server-side program which runs on a server in order to serve the request. But in order to make our application accept the end user request or the browser request or the client request, we need to add one software which accepts the HTTP request. So that dependency name is Jakarta Enterprise Edition API. So let me tell you, there are so many editions in Java. So Java Standard Edition, that means we call it as Java SE, which has all the core related libraries and classes. There is something called Java EE, which is something called a Java Enterprise Edition. And that edition is basically meant for creating web applications. It's advanced. Okay, Java SE is the start of the Java, core Java itself. Okay. So here I just wanted to add the group ID. And we will cover all the annotations, most of the annotations today, and we will see how we can understand those annotations first of all. So here there is something called Jakarta dot platform, and there is something called a artifact. So Jakarta Enterprise Edition -IP. So add this. So if you don't know about how to add this, you can just type Jakarta EE space Maven. So here if you include that, you have this Jakarta Enterprise Edition API. You can just go to this. The recent version is 10.0.0. And then probably you will have this dependency over here. Just copy paste the same dependency over here. But do you know Maven scopes? First of all, anyone knows about Maven scopes? I will tell you why we need to use scopes. And Maven scopes is one of the hot interview question where they will be asking for 3+ or 4+ or 5+. Okay, even for a fresher also it is suitable, but getting to know all these kind of things will make you perfect. Okay, so now so now I have this Jakarta API, and now I just wanted to, right now our Java application is not a complete web application. Since we have added this Spring Web MVC, we cannot say this as a web application. Do you know the reason why? Anyone knows the reason why? This is not a web application. So there is something called a packaging. There's something called a var. There is a jar which will be used for Java Standard Edition. That means core Java. Jar is a Java archive file. Var is a web archive file. Okay. So this web archive file will run only on servers. Got it? So that's the total idea. Okay. Now, if I just go and click on this Maven and update project, click on this update project whenever you add the packaging as a var. And now if you can just see over here, just go to add and remove. There you go. You got your var over here. Unless you add the packaging as var, this cannot be added to the server. Server accepts only the var. Okay. So here you can just add it to the server. So once you add it, let me start the application first of all and see whether it is starting perfectly or not. Let's see that. Yes, the application has been started successfully, but do we have any servlet classes over here? First of all, starting servlet engine. This is related to the Tomcat. That means it's a servlet engine. But do we have any servlet over here apart from this? There is no servlet. There is something called dispatcher servlet. This object is not there. So whenever there is an interview scheduled to any of the company, you cannot go directly to the company. There will be a security. So for the web application that we are going to develop, this is a Java web application, right? So if it has to accept the request, there has to be a security person to authorize the request, first of all. So if there is no servlet, we cannot send the request, first of all. Okay, let me show it to you what I just wanted to say now. Okay, I just wanted to rename this to user registration system. Just want to do this. And I don't want this, first of all. Right? And I also don't want this because this is a server-side application. We don't run it. Okay, Tomcat server runs our application. So here I just wanted to create one simple controller, first of all. So I just wanted to make this as a test controller. And I just wanted to make this as at the request controller. I'll just tell you all these annotations, but wait for 2 to 3 minutes. Okay. And at the rate, the request mapping. And I just wanted to give this as test. That means localhost 8080 because Tomcat server runs on 8080 port /test. This is a URI, not the URL. The complete thing is a URL where localhost :8080 /test will be the complete URL. And this is a URI. Okay. So public string test. And here I just wanted to make this as the get mapping. And here I just wanted to return some. That's very simple. Now we have all this. Now I just so when there are any changes, it will ask us to restart. Can you see this? So let's restart the application. Yeah, so it has started, right? So server will start, but if you can see the disadvantages over here, there is no dispatcher servlet first. Okay, let me tell you what will happen when I run this application. So let me go to this and open the localhost 8080 /. We cannot give directly the test because since it is a Java Maven project, right? Java Maven web project. So if you just see this pom.xml, there is something called an artifact ID. So you need to see this artifact ID. Okay, you need to see this artifact ID and then paste it over here /test. Then only it will work. But right now, there is no servlet configured, first of all. Okay, so if I just enter this, you'll get 404. Got it? So to make this application work, what we need to do, first of all, so first we need to configure a dispatcher servlet because that is the only servlet which is going to receive the end user request. Who is the end user over here? It's a client. Browser is the client, right? Yeah. So I just wanted to create one class, which is app servlet initializer. You don't have to note it. So see it, because otherwise, if you don't see it right, you will not understand the steps that I'm going. Okay, yeah. So here we can just, you'll get all the notes. Don't worry about that, okay? So abstract, there is something called abstract annotation config dispatcher servlet initializer. So this will initialize our dispatcher servlet. So dispatcher servlet is the servlet which runs on a Tomcat server and it accepts the browser requests. Okay. Now to make it work, we need to configure some methods. So here, what is our main class? This one, right? I just have to annotate this with @configuration and then followed by @component scan. So @configuration is just saying that this is the main configuration. This is the main configuration class. And then how many number of classes are there in our project? If they are annotated with @controller or @component or @service, it will create objects for those classes. We don't have to create objects. So that's the meaning of @component scan. Okay. Now what I just have to do over here, I will just go to this app servlet initializer and here. So here you don't have to do anything over here. So first of all, you can just create like this, the same, just as empty, because we don't have any root configuration classes, but we do have servlet config classes. What is the servlet config classes? So our application is going to have only one class, which is user, that means test controller, right? This is a test controller. For this, it has to create an object and then it has to call this method. Only with if the instance is created for the test controller, then only it can call this test method, right? The same way, here we need to provide those steps to create objects for our classes. So @configuration followed by @component scan. Okay. Now the next thing here is new class. What is our main configuration class? What is our main configuration? So here, if you can see that getServletConfig classes method is nothing but our configuration class, which is having @component scan. Okay, we need to provide that inside this one, which is something called user registration system.class. Okay, now the other thing is new string, same like the above return type, and here I just wanted to say it as /. What is this /? First of all, what is this mapping first of all? So if you just go to this, I have to give the URL. So this is the application URI, right? So now, what is this /? Like, so let's say if this URI is actually starting with /, allow the request to be served by dispatcher servlet. So that's the meaning of it here. Allow all the requests starting with /. Okay. So this is the mapping that I just wanted to give. Now, if I just stop it and start the application, that means now start the Tomcat server. You'll just see some strange errors. This is where Marvin scopes are really important. Okay. So let's say, what is the error? Let's see why it is not getting started. So probably if you see that dispatcher, see, it has started initializing the dispatcher servlet. So dispatcher servlet is created because we have extended our class with annotation config servlet, dispatcher servlet initializer, right? Now dispatcher servlet is there, but what is this? Error creating bean with name, router function mapping. This class is not found. Okay. Now that means we are missing something in our Part10. So I will tell you in previous days what is going to happen. So probably if you just see this, copy this. Previously, the problem was, see here, we'll get the dependency. So people will try adding this YASL. This is not required, first of all. But how to get this missing classes? Okay, so if you see over here in the pom.xml, we have Jakarta API. It has all these dependencies like this one also. It has this dependency also. But in order to make this dependency available for the Tomcat server, let me tell you what is the scope first. If I just make it as scope as provided, and let's start the application now. We start it. And now let's see whether you are getting any exceptions or not, first of all. So it has started initializing the dispatcher servlet, and then boom, there you go. There is no error. Got it? It has started. It has already initialized the servlet, dispatcher servlet. The proper meaning of this, when our application is running on Tomcat server, this software, that means this software, in order to start on a Tomcat server needs some libraries or classes at runtime. But this Jakarta Enterprise Edition API software will provide required softwares or the required classes to the Tomcat server only when we enable this scope as provided. Provided means, hey, Jakarta, I'm running on a Tomcat server. Please provide respective classes to the Tomcat server so that it can start successfully. Otherwise, the request will not be served. If you are getting any issues, the end user request will not be served, first of all, right? So provided scope is one of the Maven scope. So provided scope, what it actually does, it actually gives required classes only when required. See, let's imagine one situation. Right now, everyone has a bank account. You have some certain loans. Can you close the loans first of all? Do you have the authorization first of all? No, right? You cannot close a loan because you are a bank account user, right? Like the same way, Jakarta Enterprise Edition API software also has required softwares which will not give it to the server directly unless we say. Let's say in banks, there are a lot of admin people, right? Only the admins can control the, clearing the, that means loans account, deleting the loan account or making it as active or inactive. Everyone can do that, right? Only the admin can do that. So the same like our thing. So let's say, so this is something like a lazy loading. That means it is not going to give all the classes unless it is required by Tomcat server. Got it? So Tomcat server right now requires some classes to make this application completely initialized and running. Otherwise, the request will not be served, first of all, right? Now, what we need to do, if we actually provide the scope as provided, then only Jakarta Enterprise Edition API is going to give the respective classes to the Tomcat server so that it can start successfully. And if you just go to this, get it? This will work. Got it? So that's the total idea. So let me tell you one more thing. If this is commented, let's remove this first of all and restart our application first of all. Okay, we see the errors because some of the classes were not there. Yeah, some of the classes is not there. So if the classes, respective classes are not there, this will not work. That means, see here, error creating bean, router function mapping. So there are some functions or there are some classes which are available in Spring Framework. Those classes will not, if these classes are not there, then probably our request will not be served. This router function mapping, what is this router function mapping? Whatever the URL I just wanted to give, that URL has to be mapped with my request mapping annotation over here. Otherwise, it will not work. So for mapping that URL with this application request mapping URL, If both the things are matching, then probably it will understand that it has to execute this endpoint. Got it? Because it has @forward/test. That is what router function will do. That's the reason if router function mapping class has to be available, we need to instruct Jakarta Enterprise Edition API software to give that class and initialize that class whenever our application is running on Tomcat server. Once we run this, once we start this application, restart. And if you don't see any errors, then probably your application will start. Started, and now that's the total value. Got it? So far, so any questions in this from anyone? But I will ask you at the end, not now, because we need to cover some more annotations. So here, if you can see, I'll just start explaining you all the things now. Okay. So let's say in the user registration system, I just wanted to come in this part. And now let's restart the application. Restart it. We'll see all the pros and cons now. Okay. See the console for any errors. The dispatcher servlet initialized. Server is also started, but if you just go and execute this 404, and if you can see the logs over here, there are no logs. That means something wrong. See, the proper reason is we are not able to debug the issue, first of all, when we are using Tomcat server. Okay. So if you see here, the origin server did not find a current representation of the target resource. That means, what is this meaning, first of all? That means it was unable to create an object for the test controller because @component scan is not there. That's the reason. If this object has been created, then probably this method will be called. We can call this method only by creating an object, right? Like this. Then only we can do test controller dot test. This is how basically we do, right? If there is no object created, then how this class will be initialized, first of all. Got it? Now, just go to this user registration system and test it again. So it will work. Now, remove this configuration and see whether it is working or not. So automatically it will restart. So you don't have to worry. Sometimes it will ask the developer to restart the machine, and sometimes it is not. Okay, reloading context with name. Now, just go to this and reload this one. How it is working. So let me stop and restart because it has asked me to restart. So restart it. Okay. So let's execute this. It is still working. So here, even if you have, this is related to the component scan, right? But component scan will not work if there is no configuration. But do you know why it is working still, first of all? Anyone? Anyone? Anyone, first of all? Anyone? So configuration is required only for Spring Core based applications, not for web applications. For web applications, configuration is already present on a lot of classes. That means inbuilt classes. Let me explain you what I just wanted to talk about. So if you consider there are a lot of objects created, so how we can get those objects, first of all, there is something called, go to this One. And there is something called application context, right? Everyone knows about this. And auto wireless. And here, I just wanted to use this application context. Get bean definition, names. And here, I just wanted to use arrays dot stream and pass the array and dot for each. And then system dot out dot println. Okay. Now let's restart our application and see what are all the beans that it has created behind the scenes. Now let's understand this. Okay. Now it has started, right? Okay. I just wanted to hit this again. So if you see here, internal configuration annotation processor. That means for web applications, I have already shown you Spring Framework core-based application where we actually annotate our configuration class with @ configuration. So here @ configuration is optional for web applications. Okay, because there are some internal configuration annotation processor which are readily available as beans, and those will add @ configuration annotations on top of the classes. We don't have to make sure that this main class is having @ configuration or not. Okay, and there is something called internal auto-wide annotation processor. That means this auto-wide will work because we have used it. And then probably there is something called internal common annotation processor, and there is something called internal event listener processor and internal event listener factory, and user registration system object has been created, and also the test controller object also has been created. Now what happens if we don't have this user registration system @ component scan? And let's see the issues now. Okay, now let's restart the application. Restart it. Okay, it has restarted. And now I just wanted to enter this 404. That means no mapping, forget. That means if you just see that no objects have been created, no objects are there. That means even this class object has not been created. Okay, only if @ component scan is there, then only it will work. Got it? Restart it. And enter it over here. That's the total idea. Now, we'll just understand what is happening over here. Okay, so we'll just go through this application model first of all. So @ configuration is optional for the web application. It is not required. Only @ component scan will work. Okay, this component scan is scanning our controller to create an object. So that's the reason, because controller is also like a servlet, right? Which has endpoints. So that's the reason I have actually provided get servlet config classes. Here I have provided my user registration system as the configuration class. But you don't have to annotate that with @ configuration. @ configuration will be automatically done by the web application of Spring. Got it? So any questions from anyone? No, I think it is very much clear. But let's dig into deep. Okay. Now, if you just go to this controller, yes, Shrikant, please. Just wait for some time.
Yeah. Good morning, all. Can you hear me? This is Shrikant. I'm your batch admin. Can you please confirm in the chat box? Am I audible? Guys, am I audible? Yeah, guys, as you know, from today the link has been changed and you have received the login credentials. And those who have not received the login credentials will be adding you by today evening. My online team will be adding you by today evening. You will get a message to your WhatsApp, your login credentials. Okay, and as we told you that we are going to add the people who have paid the fees in the Telegram group and GitHub link. GitHub link is for the notes and Telegram group is for the communication between the team or online team, like online students. So just send me a message in WhatsApp after 3 p.m. I've kept a message. 2 or 3 guys have sent me a message. Please add me to Telegram group. I asked you people to send me a message after 3 p.m. in WhatsApp so that I'll be adding you to the Telegram group as well as the GitHub link. I will share you the GitHub link. Okay. After 3 p.m., send me a message. Not before that. Please. After 3 p.m., whenever you're comfortable, send me a message. I'll be adding you to the Telegram group as well as the GitHub link. And the if you have any, one more important thing here, if you have any login issues while you're joining from Naresh IT app portal, we have shared a number in the login credentials, app support team number. You just take a screenshot and share it to the app support team in the WhatsApp and mention your issue so that they will be resolving the issue. If you share it to me, even I have to send them again out, they will come back to me again. I have to share you. So it's better you directly contact them through WhatsApp whenever you have login issues. Is that clear, guys? Can you please respond in the chat box? Is that clear? Murali is very active here. So today after 3 p.m., drop me a message in WhatsApp. I'll be adding you to the Telegram group as well as the GitHub link for notes. Thank you. Sir, thank you, sir. Srinivas, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Srikanth.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. So let's understand this annotation. So previously, in the old versions of Spring, we don't have this @rest controller. Okay. So we do have something called @controller only. Okay. This is the old annotation. But when I restart this application, it will automatically restart. Let's wait for some time. But if it is Spring Boot, it will be very much quick. Okay. So it is very fast. But here it will take a lot of time to run as well. Okay. So this is one disadvantage of using Spring framework alone with web. So now let's hit this application endpoint and let's see what is the problem. So here we have used @controller, but it is not coming. But if you see this, @controller is just returning the response. What is the response here? Test, right? But still it came to the class. That means test controller object has been created. And these are all the annotations. That means objects are created, but still it is not able to serve properly over here. The problem is, if you have @controller only, and if you don't add @response body, the request will not be mapped to the HTTP protocol. So there are two protocols. There is one protocol, HTTP protocol. We do have HTTP request and HTTP response. So why we have actually made request mapping over here? To actually map our URI to this controller. That means this is a URL. It has to be mapped to our Spring controller. Then only it will work. Like the same way, this is a string, right? Everyone knows that there is a string class in Java. So this will not be understood by the browser directly. You have to write this response inside the HTTP response. So if you just see this, there is something called HTTP response. Okay, this is the interface which will which is automatically added over here. And this, whatever the response that we are going to return, by adding this, it will write that response to the HTTP protocol, and protocol can be understood by the client as well as our server. If this is not there, then probably the response will not be shown on the browser. Okay. So if I just refresh it after adding response body, it will just work it on the fly. Now let's understand. There is @ component also, right? There is @ component annotation. So can we use this? Can we use this? Okay. Now let's wait for some time and let the server restart again. See how much time it is actually taking for making a change and restarting again. It is almost taking 5 to 10 seconds of time. More than 10 seconds also, right? It is not started yet. Yeah, it is started now. So if I just go and refresh this, it will not work. So whenever we have @request mapping, @request mapping should have @controller or @rest controller only. Okay. Then only you will be getting the response. Okay. Let it give some time to restart again. And you can also see this is one of the disadvantage. In previous days, sometimes the Tomcat server takes at most 15 to 20 seconds of time also to restart. Okay. So now if I just refresh it, it will work. But instead of using these two annotations, we can use this single annotation to make it work. So this is a combination of @controller plus @response. So we don't have to use this. So this annotation will make it perfect. Let it restart. See how much time we have to wait. And then enter. It is working. Got it? That's the total idea. And now we will just see another annotations. Okay. Let's say I just have a service class. Let me call it as a test service. And I just wanted to annotate this with @service. There is a service annotation also. So how we are actually segregating our classes with names: user controller, user service, like test controller, test service. So we are actually segregating our classes to separate functionalities. Here, I don't want to return the response directly over here. I just wanted to return this response, but in real time, we'll have a huge code. But right now, this is just to make you understand what are all the annotations that are present in Spring code. Okay. So here, I just wanted to say public string okay. Now, if you just go to this test controller, you have to take the dependency of user service. Sorry, test service, right? It is. And then probably @autovide, it has to be used because for this object, for this class, object will be created and kept it inside the application context factory. Application context is the container where all these objects will be stored. If I have to get this object from the Spring container, we need to use @autovide. So basically what it will see, it will actually look out in the container whether this object is available or not. If this object is available, then probably it will inject that object to this test service because the default value for this one is none, right? So here I just wanted to return test service dot test. So basically it is returning string and then we are returning it from here. That's it, very simple. Okay. So now I just wanted to restart my server again. So it is automatically restarting and let's see whether we are going to get the same data or not. It is working. So just change some bit. Okay. And let it restart. See the problem here, right? Okay, done. That's the total ID. Now, if you can see here, this service class object also has been created and kept it inside the application context. So application context is like a factory or container which will hold all the class objects. So what @autovoid will do, @autovoid will not create an object. @autovoid meaning is it will just search for the objects available inside the Spring container or not. What is the Spring container over here? Application context. Okay. So basically @autovoid is used to search for this particular object inside the container. And if it is not annotated with @service, let's say what happens. Okay. Now let's see. Start this application again. This actually is starting. And now you can see that now we got the error. So service class does not have this annotation, and probably have used @autovoid on top of this. So @autovoid will not create an object for test service. These annotations like @service or @component will create an object for the classes. Okay, let me show you the console error. Error creating bean with test controller, because test controller is actually having a dependency on the test service. If test service object is not available, test controller object itself will not be getting created, right? So unsatisfied dependency, there is no qualifying bean of type test service. The means object has not been created. And if you see that, even our request will fail. It will not come to the server first of all. There are no logs. Got it? So that's the total idea. Okay. Now, if you just keep this annotation, and then probably if you see the logs, it will start the application safely. That means all the objects are there, and also this @autovoid annotation will work. Okay. Now just enter this, and there you go. Now the other way around. Let's see over here what is happening here behind the scenes. Let's say, can I use @component on top of this class? Yes, you can use it. Okay, let it restart. Started, and then there you go. Okay, so only for controller classes where there is @request mapping, only @controller or @rest controller will work. Okay, and remaining classes like service, you can also annotate it with @component because only the instance is required to call this method. Right? See here, what is happening here? So here, if this is not there, we need to create like this, test service equal to new test service. And then we need to use this over here like this. This is actually commented, right? So yeah, this is how it will work. Got it? So internally, Spring is actually doing all these steps for us, and it is automatically setting that object from the container. So we don't have to use this. Got it? Now, let's use another annotation, which is something called @repository. And let's see what happens. I just wanted to explain all these annotations. All these annotations are basically used to create an object for a class. But how we are actually separating our classes with names, like the same way they have also separated these annotations with the names. Okay, now let's enter this. This will work because only the controller class, which is having @request mapping, has to be annotated. That means for this, either controller has to be there with @response body, or @rest controller has to be there. But here @service or @component or @repository will not work. On top of the controller where there is @request mapping, only this controller annotation only will work. And also controller followed by @response body. And if you just wanted to create any classes objects which are not the user endpoints, that means request mapping URL classes, you can use @repository or @service or @component. All these three components, that means all these three annotations, whether it can be @component @service or @repository. All these three annotations are basically meant for creating an object for a class. That's it. And that's the total idea. Okay, we need view resolver is not required, Murli, because so see here, if you just see this. See here, there is no view resolver, first of all, because since view resolver is only required, Murli, whenever we are using UI pages like JSP. Since we are not using it, we don't need a view resolver, first of all. Got it? Search and linking the dependent class object to target class. Good. But no transaction. Since we are not working on transaction, so transaction management is really not required. Okay. But I will tell you the pros and cons when we... Now, let's see the advantages of using Spring Boot. Okay, let's migrate this application to Spring Boot. Okay, fine. Yeah. So now let's make this and convert this application to Spring Boot. So if we are using Spring Boot, do we need a server first of all? Stop it. Delete it. I don't have a server now. So the next thing, do we need all these dependencies? Not required. And for this application, we need to mention a parent. That means we are actually going to convert this application to a Spring Boot application. And also this configuration class is also not required. This will be done everything by the Spring Boot. Okay. So now let's go to the pom.xml and add one more dependency, parent. To make this as a Spring Boot application, we need to mention a parent tag with group ID or dot Spring Framework dot boot. And then what is the artifact? Spring Boot starter parent. If you don't know all these kind of things, then probably you can just go to this start.spring.io. Just select a Maven over here, add the dependencies, only the web, because we are actually using the web dependency over here. And click on this explore, you'll get this parent tag. Copy this and paste it over here. This becomes a Spring Boot application. But in order to make this application, Spring Boot application as a web application, we need to copy this dependency also, which is Spring Boot Starter Web. Only one dependency is required. We don't need Jakarta API, Web MVC, and Spring Context. All these things are not required. Okay, so I just wanted to copy this and paste it over here. And that's it. It is just going to convert our application to Spring Boot application. But here I just wanted to go to the user registration system, and I don't want to use this @component scan. Only @Spring Boot application will work. And if you see that it has @configuration annotation also, and it has @component scan also. Okay, one annotation is equal to so many annotations. Okay, now here, since Spring Boot application will require main method, but still it is going to start on a server. So here, I just have to make this as a configuration class. So there is something called a Spring application dot run. And here we need to provide our main class. That's it. And what I need to do now, just run this application. That's it. You don't have to do anything else. So if you see the log, see here, Tomcat server started on port 8080 and then started user registration system. Got it? So here, enter this, it will not work. The reason is only for Maven projects, Java web projects, artifact ID will be taken as a subsequent URI, but in Spring Boot, it doesn't need this. We'll just work with this. Got it? And if you see here, there are so many classes that are created behind the scenes. See here. Internal configuration annotation, the same process. User registration system, test service, test controller, and hell lot of things. If you see this, it has also created servlet auto configuration, dispatcher servlet. Okay. So we have not written this class, but still it is actually initializing it. Got it? Okay. So that's the total idea. Okay. So now if you have any questions, you can ask, and probably we will understand how to integrate this with database. And then we will see what are all the additional disadvantages if you are using database along with Spring Framework. Okay. Yes, Murali Krishna.
Hello, sir. May I ask unrelevant question? Regarding AWS.
Okay.
So interview people ask, so how do you use AWS in your project as a developer? So what can I answer for them?
See,
Can you tell me those scenarios?
The simple answer is how we are using Spring Boot by adding dependencies, right?
Yes, sir.
The same way, in order to interact with AWS cloud services, we need to add the dependencies of AWS. There are lots of dependencies. If you just see over here, close this. And right now, if you can see, there is Azure, right? Azure related services. And also there are GCP, Google. So GCP storage, GCP messaging, GCP support. And right now, AWS has not been given. So you can just go to this Maven, AWS dependencies. So here, if you just wanted to use any of the dependencies in the Maven, so if you just go to this, there is something called a software development kit, like JDK. So here, if you just go to the latest version, you'll get this com.amazon AWS Java SDK. So this provides core libraries of Amazon Web Services, and probably you can use it. And also, if you just go back to this, and if you just click on this one on the top, so com.amazon AWS. So these are all the packages. So Amazon S3, if you just wanted to use Amazon S3, you can just add AWS Java SDK S3. And then if you just wanted to work with the plain SDK for Java and SDK for core Java is also there. And if you just wanted to use DynamoDB, you can just add this AWS Java SDK DynamoDB. And if you just wanted to use AWS STS, this is something related to the key store, okay? And this is EC2 if you just wanted to use EC2. And SNS, this is just like a Kafka alternate. And all these dependencies are already there over here, Murli.
Okay, sir. So developers don't use through console or any roles?
See, console is a very old approach. When AWS released in the market, console people were using consoles. But when they have to run the application in local, they do have to install the AWS CLI tool, so that they can log into the AWS CLI server and then they can execute the services with the commits.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
So is this how we are going to use with the dependencies?
Yes, right, Murli.
Okay, sir.
But there is something called the AWS CLI tool.
Yes.
So if you just download this, you can just make your services. You can just communicate with the services directly and see also the logs over here. So you can just download it from here. I'll tell you when the time comes, okay?
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Abhinav.
Yeah, sir. Hi, sir.
Hi, Abhinav.
So my question is like you said, like at the right service, at the right component, and at the right repository,
Right.
like all are meant to create an object.
Right.
So, sir, is there anything like specifically to use that annotation in that situation, like at the right service in this?
Yeah, see, basically, just see this one, right? So probably how we actually segregate our classes, right? So let me tell you. So if you just have a controller endpoint, like we call it as a controller, or you can call it as an API, or you can call it as an endpoint, right? So we can use user controller as a name, or user API as our class name, or user endpoint as our class name, right? So these are the different naming conventions of a class. So for this controller endpoints, which are having @request mapping, we need to use @rest controller annotation only. No other annotations will work. Got it? Now, there is one responsibility principle from Solid, a single responsibility. A class must have only one and only responsibility. What is the responsibility of a controller class? Anyone knows? What is the responsibility of a controller? It has to just receive the request and it has to return the response. That is the only job of a controller, right? You cannot write some business logic code. That means connect to database, all these kind of things. Connect to database and get some records. You cannot write that code inside a controller. There is something called a user service. Here you can write your business logic. And here also you don't write the database code. You just use this user service for validations. Okay. There is something called a user repository. So here you are going to write some queries, database queries. So this has to be annotated with @repository, and this has to be annotated with @service. Okay. Now, where we can use component. Okay, let's say I just have a user model, where a class user model, where I have some private integer user ID and private string username and private string email. So for this type of classes, Pojo classes, you can use component, because this is not a service class, right?
Okay.
Got it?
Yeah, sir, I got it.
Yeah. So that's the reason they have actually segregated annotations also, because we cannot write a single class and merge all the logic. See here, basically we can call this from the controller, we can call the user service. Let's say I just wanted to pass this user information with user ID, username, password, email, something like that. So I just have to check whether the email is in the right format or not. So those kind of checks we will actually perform in user service. And that is the business.
Yes, sir.
And then once the user email is valid, then probably we need to pass this email to fetch the complete record of the user. What is the user ID? What is the username? What is his password? And all these kind of things. We'll do it in the repository.
Okay, sir. I got you. Right. Sometimes we create Pojo classes to do these things.
Exactly.
For that way,
Exactly.
I got you.
Yes. And one more thing, we have something called @entity. Okay. So this @entity is something called user, we call it as entity, user entity. So here also we will have the same set of fields. But here we'll be using one more thing called @table. Users. So users table will be created based upon this annotation in the table, and all this will be column names of the table. Okay. So I will explain you further when we are actually discussing about the database related things. Okay. Got it? Okay, fine. So Naresh, why?
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
Thanks for the session. And for better understanding, do we have any sequence diagram for the, creating the projects and, before starting this, any project, this is the project structure. So this package model class, we are writing this one, and controller class, we are writing this one, service class, and service package and repository package. Is there any project structure before starting that one?
You were there from the starting session, right, Naresh?
I'm there for the class note. You are going to give the notes, right?
See, right
I know.
Yeah. So don't worry about that. Okay. So when we are actually starting with a mini project from Monday,
Yes.
so I will tell you how to design those diagrams also.
Yeah, for better understanding, for the better understanding and future, maybe if you
No,
forget
not for the
anything.
better understanding. It has to be known from by everyone, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
And
as part of the project. Okay.
yeah, and another small request is this is like a Spring Boot or a microservice or totally annotation based things, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, so can we have any one class for the only for focusing on annotations, and these annotations is using for this purpose, and some description about that one? Maybe
Right.
for only
I'm doing
annotation.
that. I'm doing that now, right? I'm doing all
You're
that
doing
right now.
no notes for only for the
No,
annotations.
you don't have to
That
worry about the notes. See, whatever the application
oh,
that I have created and converted this application, both these applications will be committed in the GitHub with the notes.
yes,
End of the day, every day.
yes, sir.
You'll get the notes.
So what I want. Yeah, I'm trying to say at the rate auto configuration, at the rate component and components can this thing, right?
I have
Description.
actually shown it to you guys
Description.
previously also. So whatever the code that we are going to commit, so you'll be having that notes, whatever the annotations that we are going to use. Sorry for that. Second.
A description is there, right, sir, for
Description
that
is there for
annotation?
everything. See here. So I will make it clear for everyone. You don't have to write the notes. That's what I'm saying from the beginning. Every major point will be given in this readme.md. Okay.
Yeah,
If you
because in the interview
notice,
purpose also they are asking transaction management, this kind of where we need to use and kind of stuff only. If you have proper notes, so
okay,
we can go through and.
No, you don't have to go anywhere. I will just prepare it for everyone. Okay. Only in the starting, if you are clear with that, then probably you don't have to understand that. But we will be covering some basic applications where we will cover basic annotations along with all the Spring provided annotations, majorly. You don't have to worry about that, first of all. Okay.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Naresh. I think that's all for today. And probably I will meet you tomorrow, and happy learning. Bye. If everyone can come at 9 a.m., then it is okay, Akash. Then probably I see that people are joining even after 9:30. So it's a request for everyone. So let me announce this tomorrow once the strength is up. Right now, the strength is getting decreased, 26. I'll just tell that tomorrow. Okay. So bye and happy learning.